Welcome to the second day of medical nursing. Today, we are going to see the topic 2, disorders of cardiovascular system. As usual, it is very important to review anatomy and physiology before continuing with the cardiovascular disorders. Remember that the heart has the 4 chambers: 1 left atrium or left upper chamber, the second right atrium or right upper chamber, third left ventricle or left lower chamber, right ventricle or right lower chamber. You have also the septal wall that separates the right lower chamber to the left lower chamber. The heart also has the valves. We have atrioventricular valves. Those atrioventricular valves means those are the valves between atrium and the ventricles that control blood flow between the upper and the lower chambers. We have tricuspid valve located on the right side between the atria and the ventricles. Mitral valve on the left side between the atria and the ventricles. We have also pulmonic valve that control the flow between the right ventricles and the pulmonary artery. We have also aortic valve that controls the flow between the left ventricles and aorta. I think this is a review, and you remember, this is for only have a refresher mind. I know very well you have studied very well in the first year. Also, let's see electrical conduction of the heart. We have what we call sinoatrial nodes. The sinoatrial nodes is located in the right atrium, initiate the heartbeat. Atrioventricular nodes located in the superior portion of the ventricular septum. Atrial repolarizers, right and left bundles of His, ends in the Purkinje fiber spread through the ventricles, cause ventricular contraction. How blood flow. Unoxygenated blood empties into the right atrium from the systemic circulation via the inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. We know very well that the blood comes into the heart via or from in the body, in the system. They are carried by the venas. So from that blood come with the vena cava, superior and inferior vena cava are unoxygenated blood. They empties into the right atrium. Then the right atrium contracts and the tricuspid valve opens, allowing the blood to flow into the right ventricle. The right ventricle contracts and the pulmonic valve opens, allowing the unoxygenated blood to enter the pulmonary artery to go to the lungs to pick up oxygen. Oxygenated blood returns from the lungs to the heart via the pulmonary vein and enters the left atrium. The left atrium contracts and the mitral valve opens, allowing the blood to flow into the left ventricle. The left ventricle contracts and the aortic valve opens, allowing the blood to flow into the aorta and systemic circulation. Blood returns to the heart from the lower body via the inferior vena cava and from the upper body via superior vena cava. I think this is understandable. It is very important to understand the blood flow. That will enable us to understand the pathophysiological conditions of cardiac pathologies. Let's see what we call heart sound. The mitral and tricuspid valve closing create the first heart sound. The heart sound, S1. And aortic pulmonic valve closing create the second heart sound, here, S2. We will see it very well later. Okay. Let's understand them with the image. We have here inferior vena cava, and we have here superior vena cava. Superior vena cava brings back to the heart the blood from upper body parts, and inferior vena cava returns blood from lower body parts. Now, when the blood comes into atrium, into right atrium, the tricuspid valves, those are the tricuspid valves between right atrium and the right ventricles. We have like leaflet here. You can see this is like leaflets. They open and allow the blood to enter into right ventricle. Arriving in the right ventricle, when the right ventricle contracts, here we have the other valves. This is pulmonary valves. The pulmonary valves now we open and allow the blood to enter into pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery, and remember that the blood is unoxygenated. They goes to the lungs to take oxygen. When this blood arrive to reach the lungs, there will be a next change, and the oxygenated blood returns to the heart via the pulmonary veins. You see, this is the pulmonary veins that enter directly to the left atrium. When oxygenated blood arrives left atrium, here we have also the mitral valve. The mitral valve will open now to allow those bloods to enter into left ventricles. And when the left ventricles contract, here we have another valve. This is aortic valve. The aortic valve now will open and allow the blood to flow into the aorta. This is the aorta. This one is the aorta. The aorta will take the blood to our body system. Okay. It is very important now to understand this, because any failure of one way here, it will cause the heart failure. So now, very important, and I know you understand. Okay. Look, it is explained by this also here. Here we have systemic circulation and the pulmonary circulation. The systemic circulation, now we have the right ventricles pump the blood to the pulmonary artery, and the pulmonary artery to the lungs. The lungs bring the oxygenated blood to the left atrium to the left ventricles, and the ventricles contracts and pump the blood to our system via aorta. So when the blood reaches the all systems, they use the blood, they become unoxygenated. Now they go to the vena cavas, and the vena cava carry the blood to the right atrium. I think it is explained here. To understand the pathologies of the heart, also it is very important to understand cardiac layers. We have here cardiac layer view. We have the pericardium, the pericardium. This is the first layer, and we have myocardium. The myocardium, this is the second, very thick muscle and responsible for heart contraction. And you have endothelium. This is inner endothelial lining covering the trabecular. Now this is inner endothelial lining, in the heart. Now you can see. So we have three important layers: pericardium, endocardium, and myocardium. The myocardium, it is in the center now. It is a muscle layer and responsible for heart contraction. Okay, let's continue with electrical conduction. Explain it via the image here. We can see. Now we can see sinoatrial nodes. These sinoatrial nodes will be stimulated by the entry of the blood via vena cavas. Now the sinoatrial node will initiate the influx. Now the impulses. The impulses will pass and will be collected in the atrioventricular nodes. The atrioventricular nodes will send the impulses via bundles. Now we have here what we call His bundles. The His bundles, you can see this is the His bundles, and the His bundles will be separated in two bundles. This is right bundle and left bundles. Now the right bundle brings the influx, the electrical influx now in the right ventricles. While the left bundle conduct the electrical impulses to the left ventricle. Now you can see this is what we call Purkinje fibers. The Purkinje fibers is those that distribute the influx at all parts of the mass of the heart. Okay, now you can see is how the heart is contracted. Yeah, the heart is contracted by initiating the influx here on these sinoatrial nodes. The sinoatrial node is stimulated by the entry of the blood via vena cavas. Now you can see when the blood stimulates the sinoatrial node now give the influx now to stimulate the heart muscle for contraction. Okay, let's see the disorders of cardiovascular system. Firstly, let's see heart inflammatory pathologies. When we say inflammatory pathologies, we understand maybe it is irritation or infections. We will have myocarditis. Myocarditis, this is an inflammation of the heart muscle, myocardium. The myocarditis can affect the heart muscle and the heart electrical system, reducing your heart's ability to pump and causing rapid or abnormal heart rhythm. It is understand because the myocardium, this is a responsible muscle for heart contraction. When it becomes inflamed, now that will affect the heart electrical systems, reducing heart ability to pump the blood. So it is a very critical. What can cause myocarditis? Now, bacterial, fungi, parasites, and viruses can infect the myocardium. Myocarditis may also result from hypersensitivity to drugs, most commonly tricyclic antidepressant, antibiotics, and antipsychotic. Those kind of drugs, they can irritate the myocardium. So when we're doing irritation, with that irritation, the myocardium will be inflamed. Also, irradiation or chemicals or physical agent can cause irritation of the myocardium. Now, what are the signs and symptoms we can see when the client is having myocarditis? We can have dyspnea related to chronic heart failure. Yeah, dyspnea during myocarditis, it is explained by what? In this case, when you have the myocarditis, now it can lead to chronic heart failure, of course, because the myocardium is the responsible muscle for heart contraction. When the myocardium is affected, it is understandable that the heart will not contract very well. No, so when the heart does not contract very well, it is understandable. Okay, the blood will not reach the lungs sufficiently, and from that reason, the oxygen will be low in the blood, so the client can have dyspnea. The dyspnea, this is the forced difficulty breathing. Okay, you can even experience chest pain caused by infection and inflammation. We can also have a fever caused by infection and inflammation. You can hear the sound S3 gallop related to chronic heart failure. The gallop 3. This we know we have two normal sounds, S1 and S2. S3 and S4, those are abnormal sound. We will have tachycardia caused by increased cardiac workload. Yes. Even if the muscle did not pump sufficiently, but it works rapidly, so that it can to see if they can compensate the oxygen. But though they work rapidly, here we determine tachycardia, and we have shortness of breath at rest or during physical activity. We have fluid retention with the swelling of your legs, ankles, and feet. Of course, when the myocardium is not working very well, I mean it doesn't pump the blood in the blood form in the right ventricles. Means what? The right ventricles. Now the blood will remain in the right ventricles, and even it turns back to the systems. So now we will have fluid retention with swelling of our legs, what we call edema, because the heart is not pumping the blood in the right ventricles, and the blood turns back to the systems. We will have the edema. Most of the time, the edema, the swellings in the legs, ankles, and feet. Okay, also we have fatigue. The fatigue will be associated with the low oxygen, of course. You understand, we know very well that the energy is from the combustion of glucose by oxygen. Okay, now when the blood is not going to take the enough oxygen from the lungs, so that the oxygen will be low in the circulation and it will be low in the cells. At this stage, the metabolic function will be reduced. So when the metabolic is reduced, so there are no production of energy, we will experience fatigue. Okay. Other signs and symptoms of a viral infection, such as a headache, body aches, joint pain, fever, a sore throat, or diarrhea may occur. With the medical test, we will test CK and the troponin, and we will have elevated CK and elevated troponin related to cardiac cell injury. We will have a chest X-ray. We show cardiomegaly. The cardiomegaly, this is an enlargement of the heart. Echocardiogram will show cardiomegaly also. ECG, we can have abnormal ST segment related to inflammation. That is very difficult for you, but maybe you understand in the A0. Endomyocardial biopsy to identify microorganisms. We can take a biopsy. When you say a biopsy, we take a sample of the a portion of the cells, the tissue, and we go to analyze to see if there's no microorganisms or unwanted tissues. Now, we also have to take a complete blood count, FBC. Pericarditis. Pericarditis is a swelling and irritation of the pericardium, the thin sac-like membrane surrounding the heart. Pericarditis usually begins suddenly but does not last long. Acute lasts inferior to 60 weeks, and when symptoms develop more gradually or persist, pericarditis is considered chronic if it's more than 6 months. What causes pericarditis? The acute pericarditis is typically caused by a viral infection. Chronic pericarditis is typically caused by a disease or medication reaction. Other causes of pericarditis include systemic inflammatory disorders. These may include lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. Yeah. The trauma also, this injury to your heart can cause a pericarditis because it is the outer layer. Other health disorders, these include kidney failure, AIDS, tuberculosis, and cancer. Certain medications, some medication can cause pericarditis, although this is unusual. Pericarditis presumably related to hypersensitivity or autoimmune pericarditis. This is called rheumatic fever. The rheumatic fever, we see the client with a fever and joint pain. Now, collagen vascular disease, rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing, and drug-induced can cause the pericarditis. Now, we cause the autoimmunity disorder. The signs of pericarditis include acute anxiety caused by pain and respiratory change, sharp pain over the pericardium radiating to the neck, shoulder, back, and arm, relieved by running forward or sitting up, related to common nerve. Here, the client can complain the chest pain. Now, chest pain and that radiated to the neck, to the shoulder and back and arm. That will really related to pericarditis. Pain in the teeth also, muscle related to common nerve. Arrhythmias related to initiated heart, short of breath. Tachypnea related to increased oxygen demand. Pericardial friction lab related to inflammation. Chronic pericarditis, we will have hepatomegaly related to decrease in cardiac output and fluid overflow. We can also have ascites related to decrease in cardiac output and liver fluid overflow. Ascites, this is accumulation of the fluid in the peritoneum cavity. Increased fluid retention related to decrease in the cardiac output. Yeah. We have a decrease in the cardiac output because the area is inflamed and very tight, so the cardiac is not working very well. Pericardial friction lab related to inflammation can be had, and the medical test, chest X-ray shows fluid in the pericardium. ECG, echocardiography shows ST segment elevation. Echocardiograph shows also fluid in the pericardium. The diagnosis of pericardial fluids or thickening may be confirmed by computer tomography or magnetic resonance imaging. Computer tomography is what you usually call CT scan. What are the laboratory tests for pericarditis? Now, we will find increased aspartate transaminase and alanine transaminase. This is level caused by injury of the liver cells. Aspartate transaminase and alanine transaminase, this is the liver enzymes that allow to detect if the liver function well. We will have increases in CK level caused by injury of heart, increased white blood cells count caused by inflammation, increased sedimentation rate caused by inflammation, increased lactic dehydrogenase level caused by tissue damage. Treatment: pericardiocentesis to remove fluid from pericardium. There is pericardiocentesis. This is insertion of the needle and aspirate those fluids. Pericardiectomy also can be done. Pericardial biopsy to identify infecting microorganisms, and we can have administer corticosteroid to decrease inflammation. Example, prednisolone. Non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs to decrease inflammation also, like aspirin and NSAID. Another heart inflammatory disease is endocarditis. It is a general term used to describe inflammation of the endocardium, especially the cardiac valves. Most of the time, because the valves are inner, they usually be infected. An invasive medical procedure or intravenous drug used to introduce microorganisms into the blood. An infection by a microorganism develops in the inner lining of the heart and endocardium and heart. Okay. What treatments? Medications used in the management of myocarditis include the following. We can use vasodilators. Example, nitroglycerin sodium nitroprusside, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, diuretics. Anticoagulation may be advisable as preventive measure, treat underlying cause. Now, those pharmacological drugs you will see in special pharmacology. What is intervention? For nursing intervention, we have to maintain the patient on the bed rest, of course, because they have the fatigue, and we have monitor his vital signs. When we instruct the patient to return to normal activities gradually, because the fatigue, it can returns back to activities gradually. We say gradually is to do the easy activities slowly, and go to the hard activity. Instruct also to avoid competitive activities. Now, administration of supplemental oxygen if necessary, and you have to monitor fluid management. Now, because you can see for this client, maybe should have a fluid retention. Sometimes we can manage very well the fluid intake. What are the complications? The complications from the myocarditis, now it is understandable. The first should be the heart failure. I explained this. And you can have attack or stroke, yeah, rapid or abnormal heart rhythm, sudden cardiac death, yeah. And the surgical options in the treatment, the surgical interventions in myocarditis may include the temporary transvenous pacing for complete heart block. Cardiac transplantation can be done, and estimate cases, ventricular assist device or percutaneous circulatory support, left ventricular assistive device can be used. This is advanced care. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Murakoze cyane. Mukomeze mudutere inkunga. Mukomeze mutere inkunga iyi channel, mukanda kuri subscribe ndetse no kunzogera, kugira ngo ibindi bikurikira mujye mubibona uwo mwanya igihe tubishyizeho.